Good morning. My name is Linda Pratt, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to our service. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life and a commitment to asking our values to shape our actions. We are a pluralistic religion that draws wisdom from many sources. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We welcome especially those who are worshiping with us for the first time. Guests are welcome to participate in any activities in our community. Welcome team members are wearing green name badges and are ready to answer any questions you may have if you are a visitor or new to this congregation. Pastoral care team members are wearing yellow name badges and are able to talk with you if you have life transitions or need assistance. We invite everyone to join us downstairs after service for coffee and snacks so that we can get to know each other better. Thank you for being here with us today.
All right, I think I'm next for Spotlight. Briefly, so I'm wearing my welcome team hat today. We had a meeting last week to talk mostly about coffee hour. So it's a good segue from the previous thing. Right now, we're going from our 10 teams to 8 teams because we are having difficulty getting team leads and people to volunteer each week to do hospitality. And so hospitality includes greeting at the door, ushering, doing what Gail's doing back there now with the hymnals and the orders of service, and then most time intensive, personnel intensive downstairs with the coffee, with the kitchen, the cleaning up, etc. So we are thinking about different things to do with coffee hour in an effort to adapt to the reduced numbers, to reduced participations, because I said some teams are having difficulty getting enough people, and that's why you tend to see the same faces over and over in the kitchen, and people bringing treats because we are having some difficulties with that. So we're looking at ways to improve communication. The other thing that has been suggested, and that's something for further discussion before we would make any changes, I understand years ago, coffee hour was just coffee, and that was it, and there was no food, and it was much simpler. Is that something we would have to consider a return to? It's something for discussion. But right now, the only message I have for people, there is a piece of paper posted to the bulletin board downstairs by where the sweetener and the creamer is, that little table next to the window. It's got I think it probably is an old posting at this point, hasn't been adjusted yet, but it's got the list of everyone, the teams and the members. If you don't see your name on there and you'd like to help out with hospitality teams, please let me know, and we can get you, or Lori, and one of us we can get you on a team. If you're not on a team, you don't have to be a member. You don't have to be any formal relationship. All we need is someone who's enthusiastic and is willing to come when on their assigned Sundays. So more to follow on coffee hour and hospitality as we try and adjust with just changes in how we run our business here, and an unplanned spotlight, but y'all know this is coming because you see the stuff coming in. Lucia's going to talk about the second time around sale for just a moment. Thank you.
Again, we have arrived. Today is the first day, and we need strong bodies. I was glad to see Mike come in because I know he works out almost every other day, even if tomorrow is his birthday. We need bodies down there. We need things moved from the shed down, and every day we need your help, especially Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to staff the sale. Please sign up. Please come talk to us. Please help. Thank you.
One last announcement. Choir rehearsals this week moved to Wednesdays, Thank you, Gates. My name is Molly Tegland. I'm a member of the Environmental Justice Team. Our opening words are from the Reverend Molly House Gordon. We gather together this morning tenderly, like drops of dew on a leaf of grass, hopefully, like gathered raindrops in a cloud, gleefully, like water rushing in a stream to the sea, deeply, like groundwater pulled up from a well. We gather from every direction for growth and depth, companionship and hope, and learning to love this world. We gather like the water that joins us across all of creation, the water that connects us within and without, merging and flowing across the entire world. We'd like to challenge. The words are in the order of service. We'd like to our opening song is a new one for us. Insert in your order of service. Gates will prepare it, try to fully enable.
There are two parts to this. You can pick one or the other, or you can go back and forth between them. I think the way to do this is simply to layer this. So this is part one. Second part is this. Is it
Okay. I forgot to stand up. So intent of looking at it. Oh, it doesn't matter. He did a nice job. He did a nice job. Oh, he's wonderful pianist. We are so fortunate. He's a professor from some school in I can't remember the name. And he's from the Quasies, and his parents were there. So he moved back home and he works remotely.
I don't know where.
Yeah, I'll holler at him.
His Ken's on his way up. Oh, well, maybe. You can yell at them a little
They're chatting. It's okay.
bit. Herding cats.
Good morning. Whew. Boy, I tell you what, that greeting time could just go on, and I think we'd all be really happy. Because we're all nothing but a bunch of talkers, and I really like that. I grew up in a river town. I say that because Mount Vernon, Indiana is in the toe of Indiana. And we got the Wabash coming down on one side and the Ohio coming in on another. And every time I think of rivers, I always think of the one thing that my mom always told me about rivers. Don't you dare go in those rivers. Now, I don't know if that was a cautionary tale because of the currents, or if it was a cautionary tale because we were also a plant for General Electric Plastics, and we all know what their cleaning processes were. Or I don't know if that was just a cautionary tale because my mom knew exactly who I was and what went through my mind every time I saw the river. But every time we were there, don't go in that river. That was just a little sidebar that I wanted to throw out there because we're going to be talking about water, and I found a little connection story about water, about the cycle that connects us by Molly Gordon and Jamila Batchelder. I'm out of sorts. I've been through like a week and a half of training, a week and a half of shutdown, so like I'm trying to get back on track here. It's a little hard, but I'm going to try to make it. So, rain falls upon the surface of the earth, and pulled up by gravity, each drop begins to flow downhill. Drop merges with drop, flowing together into a trickle like a streamlet, a creek, or a mighty river flowing onwards. Some of the water seeps down into the earth itself as groundwater or deep aquifers, where it will stay for days, years, or even a millennia, until it is pulled up again by tree roots, wells, springs, or geysers, rejoining the dance and the flowing, the flowing, the flowing. The water flows on until it is collected in ponds, lakes, seas, or vast oceans. And all the while, the sun's rays warm the water, calling it back into vapor, so light that it can rise up, 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 each molecule moving on its own again, rising into the higher atmospheres, buoyant and swirling up to where the air grows cool and the water vapor slows and begins to cool and begins to turn again back into droplets. Droplets find droplets and join together again and again, forming clouds growing heavier and heavier, until at last the weight of them pulls them down again, and rain falls onto the surface of the earth once again. Everywhere on earth, at every moment, this is somewhere in the cycle. Cycles upon cycles, falling, flowing, sinking, transforming, rising again and again and again. Our planet has water, has all the water it will ever have and ever have had. This water cycle has been spiraling around and around for more than 4.5 billion years. So that means that water comes from all over the world and also comes from all across time on Earth. The water has traveled through the root system of trees, long since and returned to the soil, burst from geysers that ceased spraying millions of years ago, and flowed down rivers that have changed course entirely over the billions of years. And this morning, we should remember that the water cycle doesn't involve only rivers and plants and clouds, but it also involves creatures. The water cycles through us too, coming in and out of our bodies in many different ways. That means that the molecules in water could have been the tears of joy or sorrow cried by the first person who ever felt love. Or that the water from our church sink contains in it the molecules that were once the best chicken soup someone had ever ate. Or in the sweat of the people who built this very own church in our town. Or in the blood of Mary's mothers that have birthed our grandmothers, 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 grandmothers. Or even in dinosaur pee. What and when and where else do you imagine that this water might have been? Could have been anywhere. And as we gather in the waters of our community here this morning, let us remember that we are connected to everything that has been, everything that will be. And now I'll collect my kids and we'll go downstairs.
Love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kathy Murdy, and Sally, our guest speaker this morning, has chosen a poem at the River Clarion. It's by Mary Oliver, who happens to be one of my most favorite poets. So I'm delighted to be able to read it. I don't know who God is exactly, but I'll tell you this. I was sitting in the river named Clarion on a water-splashed stone. Thank you, sister. I'll start again. What the heck? I don't know who God is exactly, but I'll tell you this. I was sitting in the river named Clarion on a water-splashed stone, and all afternoon I listened to the voices of the river talking. Whenever the water struck a stone, it had something to say. And the water itself, and even the mosses trailing under the water, and slowly, very slowly, it came clear to me what they were saying. Said the river, I am part of holiness. And I too, said the stone, and I too, whispered the moss beneath the water. I'd been to the river before a few times. Don't blame the river that nothing happened quickly. You don't hear such voices in an hour or a day. You don't hear them at all if selfhood has stuffed your ears. And it's difficult to hear anything anyway.
through all the traffic and the ambition. My dog Luke lies in a grave in the forest. She is given back, but the river Clarion still flows from wherever it comes from to wherever it has been told to go. I pray for the desperate earth. I pray for the desperate world. I do the little each person can do, and it isn't much. Sometimes the river murmurs. Sometimes it raves. And still, pressed deep into my mind, the river keeps coming, touching me, passing by on its long journey, its pale, infallible voice singing.
Good morning. I'm Susan Perry, a pastoral care associate. In this time of sharing, I take time to read from the Book of Joys and Sorrows, which is located in the hallway leading into the sanctuary. Please feel free to write in this book before each service. Please also mention to Reverend Patrick or any of the pastoral care team if we may help you through any of life's stresses or changes. I saw no readings or writing in the Joys and Sorrows book. Are there any online? Thank you. Thanks. Although no one has shared any joys or sorrows today, we know that each of us has both happy and concerning events that we hold within us. May we now open our hearts and minds to a place of quiet meditation within the energy of our congregation. I leave you with a reading by UU Jamila Bachelder and UU minister, which we heard from earlier, Molly House Gordon. It's called The Strength of Water. The strength of water takes on many, many forms, just as each of you has a unique and necessary strength that you bring to our community and to the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down into the deep wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall wearing rock away with sheer force of will? Are you a tiny drop of water in a crevice, breaking it open slowly, stealthily? Are you buoyant like a great salt lake, practiced at holding others aloft? Are you tenacious like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm like the pond at daybreak, offering radiant peace by your shores? Are you in touch with hidden depths, pulling from a vast well? Do you soothe like the steam rising from a cup of tea? Do you dissolve away stubborn muck like water left in a pot to soak? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distraction like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and flow like the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart. Draw it up into your soul. As we gather together the many waters of this community, we need each of your power, each of your resilience, each of your love to make us whole. When the musical meditation begins, you are invited to come forward in silence and light a candle for a personal joy or sorrow.
Thank you, Gates. I'm Lori McCullum with the Environmental Justice Team. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who accord with our principles, mission, and vision. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. We are sharing the undesignated plate offering this month with Quad City Interfaith. Please be as generous as you are able. We invite you now to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Thank you. For all the gifts of time and treasure that you give to this congregation, with sincere gratitude, we thank you. Now I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Sally Hartman from the Unitarian Universalist Society in Coralville. I've known Sally for a long time. She's a fellow eco-warrior. We've marched in marches together and worked on a number of local and regional issues. Sally and I are also former school psychologists, so we know each other from those days as well. And she's a chair of their social justice team there and a member of their Green Sanctuary program. And I'm really looking forward to hearing her speak today.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be invited to speak with you this morning. When I was in college, my boyfriend and I decided to go camping. So we checked the map. It was a paper map, no internet in those days. And we discovered that Lake Kagansa State Park was just 30 miles away. And we said, yes, and it has a beach. Let's go. We were kind of excited. And I never thought about what my mother never said, which is, my mother never said, don't swim in the lake. But we knew not to when we got there because it was pea soup and it smelled. There was no beach. There weren't even any people there. It was an eerie experience on a hot August weekend. Lake Kagansa did not get that way by itself. We all contributed to it. People did. We change water. I'm going to discuss that, but I'm also going to talk about how water can change us. That's kind of a strange concept to think about. But first, let's go with how we change water. Well, it's polluting the water, and it's contributing to climate change because climate change affects the water. So let's start with pollution. Well, when I was a kid, I heard about this awful fire on Lake Erie and the Cuyahoga River. How could a river catch on fire? Later, when I was a young adult and I moved to Iowa City, I was told, you cannot drink the water if you're pregnant, and don't give it to your baby or your toddler because it affects development. Well, that was a long time ago, but the nitrates in water have only increased. So I'm going to take a look at some other things in Iowa that I know about. So in Johnson County, where I live, there's this little town called Nichols, and it has about 300 and some people there. They are all drinking bottled water, the whole town, because they have shallow wells, and the wells have become polluted. They have nitrates, they have phosphorus, and they have atrazine, and there's some other pesticide that I can't remember. That's in Iowa. That's close to home. Another thing that I'm thinking about in the future especially is that if the carbon capture pipelines go through Iowa and through Illinois as well, some of Illinois, that will really impact environmentally sensitive areas. So that, again, is an affront to a way that our land will be polluted. But I'm going to spend more of the time talking about pollution and poor water quality, talking about Chris Jones. And I meant to bring his book up here, so I have to get it just a second. Here is Chris Jones' book, and it says, the title is The Swine Republic, and the subtitle is Struggles with the Truth About Agriculture and Water Quality. Chris Jones was a professor at the university researching water. He wrote a blog that got the attention of state legislators who spearheaded an effort to get his blog shut down, and they succeeded. The university said, okay, you can't do this blog anymore. Chris decided to retire. He couldn't be effective in his job any longer. There were forces outside his control that impacted his work when he was working. So he has been fighting people like, well, not people, but entities like the Iowa pork producers, the Farm Bureau, and there's other organizations that have joined together for concerted effort to shut down any research that's being done on water quality. And they've succeeded. So they've taken all the funding away from nitrate sensors that were spread across different rivers in Iowa to monitor those sensors, to monitor the nitrate using those sensors. I was going to read from Chris's book, but I think instead I'm just going to give you some chapter titles because they sum up things rather amusingly, better than a paragraph would. So first title, Mamas, don't let your babies become farmers. Iowa, addicted to pornography. And then there's propaganda. This is my favorite, though. I have to clear my throat for that. Okay, my favorite. Don't pee down my leg and tell me it's raining. What really impacted me the most probably recently is Chris Jones now writes a blog that's separate from the university. And you can find that blog and subscribe if you would like to. But his last blog really had me thinking hard. It was about book banning and water. And I go, how is he connecting that? So he goes into a lot of detail about the book banning, including including what's happening in Ankeny. Just a second.
I'll get you some water. Yeah, I will.
Okay. She's getting me some water. I don't know what happened all of a sudden. Maybe I just got too excited and it happened. So what's happening in Ankeny is the school district, the school board decided to, the school district, it wasn't the board, decided to ban 340 some books. Thank you. These books included 1984 and a children's biography of Pete Buttigieg. Where this was coming from, very recently they've stepped down from banning all those books and have just said, oh, we're just banning the ones that the state has said we can't use that involves different, am I allowed to say this in church? I don't know, but certain things, and you can read it about it in the paper, right? So
You can say.
But Chris,
You can say anything in this church.
I can say anything. Okay, so the legislature has banned any books that mention sex acts. See, I shouldn't have said it. So Chris wrote this before they backed off, but he was saying how these forces in Iowa and outside of Iowa, including Moms for Liberty, that really impacted some of the thinking of the school district officials. And he says those same forces are what caused him to have limited success in his career in cleaning the water in Iowa. It's authoritarianism, and he decries it. He says it's not what we should be doing here. So we have changed the water. But we've also made climate change happen, which affects the water. So when I think of scarcity of water, I think of how I didn't get it for a long time. When I was a little kid, my mom would take me to swim in Pigeon Lake. That's a little lake in Wisconsin. It's probably way polluted now. But when in the day, we went swimming there. And I thought it was the biggest expanse of water I'd ever seen. It was probably bigger than a pond, but it was big to me. Then in high school, I was amazed at the views because our high school was situated right on Lake Michigan. And I could see out into the water and I could not see the other side. And I thought, we have a lot of water. But then my perception of water scarcity changed because I moved to Colorado for a short time and met people like lawyers who were working on water rights issues because water was already getting scarce or was scarce in Colorado, and it was a huge issue there. Then I started thinking more about water scarcity. And really, climate change is going to impact us in that people are going to be looking to us for water. So the West is going to get drier. They're not going to be able to feed as many people as they have been. We're going to be looked at because we have aquifers, we have rain. The climate change isn't supposed to impact us as far as the amount of rain we'll get. It will impact us when the rain comes or when it doesn't come. So what will happen is our aquifers are going to be very valuable to the rest of the country. The problem is that we are depleting our aquifers. Let me give you an example. The city of Des Moines had a nitrate problem because of what was happening upriver. They had to spend millions of dollars over the years to take the nitrates out of the water to make it so that people could drink it. Well, they lost a lawsuit that they started, and so they had to figure out a different solution because it was just costing too much money. And their solution was to build wells. There are other municipalities that are also looking to build wells. So that is further going to deplete our aquifer. But we're not replenishing our aquifers. We have lawns where water runs off the lawns. We are cutting down trees. We are sending water right down to the Mississippi, and there it goes down to the Gulf, and contributes to the dead zone. So with climate change, we need to look to the future and figure out how we can replenish our aquifers. So far, I've talked about pollution and the climate change, all what we have done to change water. Now I'm going to shift and talk about how water can change us. Well, water changes us all the time, because if it rains, you get an umbrella or else you get wet. So either way, you're changed, dry or wet. But I'm talking about a different kind of change. I'm talking about an inner spirit change, maybe more spiritual change that water can provide for us. Earlier, we sang a beautiful hymn, Holy Waters. Holy waters make us new. Holy waters make us one. Holy waters make us free. Let's start with holy waters make us new. Well, part of holy waters is to recognize the sacredness of water. So the sacredness of water, I'll define it for you, is exalted or worthy of complete devotion as one perfect in goodness and righteousness. Exalted or worthy of complete devotion. When I read those words, I think of the indigenous people that I met when I went to northern Minnesota. We had been invited as allies to protest the Line 3 gas line that was going through all of the sacred places that the indigenous people felt that they needed to protect. Of course, Line 3 went through anyway. But to experience that togetherness with the indigenous people, to listen to the water ceremony, I couldn't understand one word of the Lakota that was said during the water ceremony, but I felt the essence of it, the sacredness of the water. So in that way, holy waters made me new. And how can holy waters make us all new? Well, if we increase our knowledge about water, that will make us new. When you leave this place, you will be a different person than when you walked in. Maybe not because I'm talking up here, because maybe some of you aren't even listening, but on the other hand, maybe there's something about this morning's experience that will change you in some subtle way. And that is how water can be holy, because it brings us to a point where we become more knowledgeable, we become more rich in our understanding. So one way is we read books like this. Another book that that I could recommend it's called The River Knows. It's by Neil Hamilton. It's brand new. He spoke at Prairie Lights last Thursday. I missed it, but there's other things to do than reading books. There's documentaries. There's blogs that you could read. There's people that you can listen to and lectures, or even if you go to a meeting that is an environmental organization. I think there's some kind of meeting that I heard about, right? right, Lori? Green drinks, then you are expanding. Water is making you expand your spiritual connectedness with water when you learn more about it. Okay, so that's what holy waters makes us new. We're new people when we learn. Holy waters makes us one. And that happens when we gather together to work to each other. Now, some of you, I didn't have enough, but some of you have these colorful postcards that I was kind of handing out when I had a minute. And that is something that we're doing together. Iowa City just did their postcards. Decorah did their postcards. So it's kind of like UUs across the state are working to have these postcards on the carbon capture pipelines. And the reason we're opposed to those, it's because we're going to not promote fossil fuels, and ethanol promotes fossil fuels. The CO2 capture is from ethanol plants. So if we're electrifying, ethanol plants will be diminishing, and so will the need for the pipelines. So it's not worth spending all that money just to carbon capture ethanol plants. When we work together, there's something that happens. We become one. So that communication piece, that the postcards I was talking about, and you can write your legislators. You can show up for events. That makes Holy Waters making you one. I think the Great Plains Society had an event in Quad Cities, maybe May, and they too are looking to clean up the water. Their project is the Mississippi River. If you don't know, the Great Plains Society is an indigenous group. You can go to forums, candidate forums. So what are you going to say at a candidate forum when it's time to ask questions? You can say, what are you as a candidate proposing to do to clean up Iowa's waters? Another thing is organizing. So getting people together. Maybe that's your talent, is get people together. Start a book club on water, or reading this book. CCI is having a book club speaking or discussing this book next month. So there's a lot of things to do, and one of the things is to be creative. So I heard about some pipeline opponents renting an airplane with a sign that said, stop the pipelines or something, and they flew it around this pipeline executive's party. He was having this big place, party, and there is this airplane flying around. So there's a lot of things that we can do together. Holy Waters makes us one. Holy Waters can also make us free. Free to go swimming, free to drink, and free from authoritarianism. That's one of the things that we have to bring home, is that many things, including water, is affected by this tendency for a small group to impinge on the rights of the larger group. Finally, Holy Waters makes us whole. It's a calling. It's a calling to our spiritual journey. With reverence, we can become whole.
Thank you, Sally. Now, if you would like to rise as you are willing and able, we are going to sing the song I've Got Peace Like a River, which is number 100.
Verses 1, 2, 3,
1, 2, 3, and 6. All right. That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you, James. And now, as we extinguish the chalice, if you want to join me in reading, may our lives reflect the questions of the peace and joy that is possible in the world. And may our love find its place to sustain us as we go our separate ways together. And before I read the closing words, I just want to make a statement about water that came to me as Sally was speaking, because one of my grandson's first words was water. And last week we went to Lake Michigan, and his eyes, when he approached the water on the beach, were as big as saucers, and he said, "Water." This poem is called Mid-Morning Summer Rain by Maya Rowe. I awoke to the rain, whispering down among the birches. The fields were calling me. Queen Anne's lace, black-eyed Susan bowed with dewdrops. Late raspberries like a blessing. Everything clean and misty is a gift. Walking down the muddy road, barefoot in the morning. Friends from dreams who follow me along the central margin of wet grass. Tell me of the things I love, but do not yet understand. Thank you. Hope to see you all downstairs.